This is the Know Your Law series by Barefoot Law, a non-profit organization which uses digital innovation and technology to provide free legal information and guidance for all. For more information, visit www.barefootlaw.org. This is the Barefoot Law webinar on the process of buying land. So for very many of us, even just starting to think of buying land is scary. And then getting into the process, you've had so many things, you don't even know where to start. So this is the conversation that's going to help you find a direction. Where do you begin? Where do you think? Who do you go to? What offices do you go to? We have just the right people here to guide you on that process. Barefoot Law is an organization that helps to make the law and information on the law readily available to everyone. If I'm right, today is the day, International Day for Access to Information, and we do just that. We make sure that you get all the information that you need on the law, because many times not knowing is what makes us go against the law. So this is the place where you get free legal guidance, free legal information on everything connected to the law. And how we do it is through such webinars. This is the sort of thing that now the new normal has made normal, right? So this is how we share information and make sure that you're on top of the law. Yeah? So let's just get right into it. I will now have my panel introduce themselves.
Hello everyone. My name is Doreen Nangwala Mugweri. I am a lawyer by profession, a principal associate at a law firm called Nangwala Resida and Company Advocates. Yeah, I'm one of the panelists here today and I'm happy to be here.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Babu Hakim. I'm an advocate of the High Court of Uganda. I'm currently attached to the Department of Land Registration in the Ministry of Lands, Housing and Urban Development. I hope this discussion will be very fruitful. Thank you very much.
My name is Irene Wabule. I'm part of the Great Barefoot Law team as a lawyer, and I'm enormously happy and grateful that I'm here and part of this great discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I introduce myself as Gertrude Lamunutoro. I am the head of communications here at Barefoot Law. So Doreen, let's get right into it. What types of land systems do we have in Uganda?
We have 4 land systems in Uganda. The first being the Milo system. The Milo system is basically in the central part of Uganda, Buganda region. It is a creation of the 1900 Buganda Agreement. It's held in perpetuity. In other words, there was no term limit to owning Milo tenure system in Uganda. And then the second tenure system is freehold system. This is a creature of the colonial government. It's also held in perpetuity. There was no time limit to freehold tenure system. And then we also have the customary tenure system. This is not titled land. It's the only type that is not titled. It's basically mainly in the upcountry parts of Uganda, and it's also held in perpetuity, but it can be converted to freehold and leasehold. Then finally, we have leasehold. The key thing about leasehold is it's a creature of contract. It's a creature of contract, and the hold of a leasehold title can only hold it up to a maximum of 99 years. So it cannot be held in perpetuity like the other land systems. And then another key feature about leasehold is foreigners can only hold leasehold titles in Uganda. So foreigners cannot hold any other type of tenure system in Uganda. Because in my practice, there are many foreigners who are misadvised by maybe some lawyers, and they are tricked into buying different types of tenure and end up losing large sums of money. So when foreigners intend to invest in Uganda, the key thing is that they have to buy leasehold type of land.
In land transactions, fraudsters have become smart. So if you have identified a piece of land you want to buy, you need to be smarter than them. Because what looks a better land deal on paper or on face of it can turn out to be the worst if you don't do the necessary diligence. I will call it researching about the land you want to buy. This entails two things. You must research about the land you want to buy, and you also research about the person who is to sell you that piece of land. As regards searching about the land, you must first ascertain, let me take into context the registered land first. You must first conduct a search with Ministry of Lands, Housing and Urban Development. Ministry of Lands has 21 ministry zonal offices spread all over the country. Now, for example, here we are in Kampala, there is a ministry zonal office at KCCA. If the land is in Wakiso, there is a ministry zonal office in Wakiso. If it's in Impigi, the ministry zonal office is there. These are 21 zonal offices spread all over the country. You can conduct a search about that land to ascertain who is the registered proprietor of that land, what acreage, are there any encumbrances in form of mortgages, caveats, government charges, court orders, etc. We also have, Ministry of Lands also has a one-stop center at Georgian House. You can conduct a search from that one-stop center about registered land in any part of the country. This entails only paying 10,000 as such fees, and they give you that piece of land. They give you information about that piece of land, the registered proprietor, the acreage, and the encumbrances thereon. That is the first thing. Then the second thing is what we call a ground search. You go on ground. You've ascertained, let me say, the piece of land is here. You come and consult the LCs. You must at all times engage a surveyor to open up the boundaries, because we have got instances where a person claims to have bought land here, yet the title he or she was given is some meters away from where he was actually shown. So you must engage a surveyor to open boundaries if it's registered land. They open boundaries such that the boundaries coincide with what the deed print in the title has. Consult the LCs. Now there is also something coming up that people tend to give you the right information, but on the wrong duplicate certificate of title. If a person can avail with a duplicate certificate of title, the title held by a title held by a person is what we call a duplicate certificate of title. What we keep in the registry is what we call the original or the white page. The DCTs we give out these days have barcodes. If you have a barcode scanner, you can scan, but all titles don't have such features. If you can talk to the person who is selling to you land and he gives you that certificate of title, you can bring it to the registrar to ascertain whether it's genuine or not. Because in the recent, people have dealt with for the duplicate certificate of titles. So that's another step. Then the other step is ascertaining, is the person I'm buying from land the right person to sell it? In the past, like before 2015, there was no requirement of passport photos and national IDs. But now a mandatory requirement. For you to transfer and acquire land, you must have identification documents and passport photos. So you need to ascertain that, am I dealing with the right person? If that person has a national identification card, you can inquire from NIDA and they give you that information. Because the land can be genuine, but when you're dealing with the wrong person, making the transaction a nullity. You get my point? So after ascertaining the land, you go to the person. You ask about the person from the neighbors who owns this land. You go to the LCs. You take your time. In a nutshell, that is it. But summarizing it, you must first ascertain that this land is genuine and I'm also buying from the right person. Yes, that is it.
Okay. Doreen, if I may go back to you, what does the process of due diligence really look like practically for a person that's looking
buy a piece of land? What is the practicals? Just step by step.
Like my colleague Hakim has said, due diligence can either be legal at the registry or physical. So the first step is to conduct a search. I'm not going to go into detail because it's already elaborated on that. Conduct a search at the lands registry of the property you intend to purchase. The search report will indicate the owner and then any encumbrances that may be on the title. So beyond the search or beyond the register, it's important for an intending buyer to go on the ground. That's the next step, because a search report does not indicate squatters. It does not indicate whether someone is married or not, and they require spousal consent, etc. So an intending buyer needs to be very vigilant and look beyond the register and go on the ground. Now, when you go on the ground, it's important to look at who are you buying from. Are you buying from a company? Are you buying from an individual? Ask the local council members around, ask the neighbors, is this person married or not? Because there are scenarios in our practice where someone says they are not married and when they're actually married. So it's incumbent on an intending buyer to exercise extra due diligence before purchasing land. So when you go on the land, you first interview the intending, the vendor. Get his identification documents, like Hakim has said, the national ID, passport photos. Ask him if he's married. If he says he's not married, and indeed there's no evidence of him being married around, then he has to swear what we call a statutory declaration to that effect, that is actually not married. So it's important for a buyer to get that document, just in case in the future disputes, occur, in as far as spousal consent is concerned, you have that document with you. So in the event that the intending vendor is married, then you have to interview the spouse, get their written consent to buy the land. Because the spouse under the law has to consent if it is family land. You also have to get the passport photos of the spouse, get their identification. And then if the intending vendor is a company, you need to get the constituent documents of the company, such as certificate of incorporation. And this should be certified copies from Uganda Registration Services Bureau. Someone may give you a fake certificate of incorporation. So it's incumbent on an intending buyer to actually obtain certified copies of constituent documents. Then if you're buying from a company, it's also important for the company to have a resolution authorizing them to sell that land. So this can also be obtained from URSB. They give you a certified copy of a resolution allowing them to sell the land. So when people think of buying land, you may buy a land from an individual or a company, so you need to look at both ends. Then another point to look at is if you want to buy, sell, leasehold, because like I said, every tenure is different. If you want to buy leasehold, when you've conducted a search, the search does not indicate the terms in the leasehold, the leasehold agreement. Because now for leases, you need to get consent to transfer from the lessor, the person who holds the mother title. So you need to look at the lease agreement, review it, look at the terms. Do you need consent? In most cases, you do need the consent to transfer. Look at the period. Is the lease period still subsisting or not? Or has it expired? You need to look at all those details. So due diligence is very, very extensive. Likewise, for leasehold, you need to look at user rights, because leaseholds are granted for particular purposes. Is the user right commercial? Is the user right residential? So if you want to buy land and you want to buy it for, say, commercial, but the user right in the leasehold is saying it's residential, that's a red flag. So it's very important, and this comes mainly to maybe foreigners who usually buy leasehold. You have to look out for user rights. What is your purpose of buying this land? Do you want to use it for investment? Do you want to reside there? Do you want to use it for agricultural purposes? So user rights are usually specific. Yeah, so an intending buyer needs to look out for all those things. In addition, After interviewing the intending buyer, whether a company or an individual, and looking at the type of land you want to buy, it is important to also ask LCs, the local council area people about this person. Then also, of course, get a surveyor to open up boundaries, like Hakim has said, have a survey report with you so that the acreage is in tandem with what is on the certificate of title. Then I think that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. Yeah.
That's really insightful and very detailed. It gets me thinking that what we've been thinking, that the process should be, I get a broker, see the piece of land, pay money and we are done. It's really not enough. It's really not enough. Irene, so in the case that I've done everything, I've gone through my processes, but somehow, somewhere, I still got scammed. Because as Hakim said, the fraudsters have become smarter. And I still got scammed, but I paid for the land. I did everything. I did my due diligence, and I got scammed somehow. Does the law have any way to help such a person get redress?
Yes, yes. Thank you, Trudy. My name is Irene, and yes, the law provides the redress for such circumstances because they are bound to happen. The thing though that the fraudsters are also very smart. And so the bit about it that the law is there to protect such a person, and you know that known as bona fide purchasers of value. Like basically someone who has paid for the land in an honest way. They have no intention of cheating. They've done the process, they've followed the due diligence, they've visited the land, but somehow, because we said that the fraudsters are also very smart people, probably some information might not come out. Probably you will not find out that someone is ignorant. Yes. Or probably like they'll come up with the certificate because sometimes the fraud is committed at the land registry. Yes. So you're going to the land registry, you've done the search, but because someone has connived with someone, you end up receiving a certificate that is fake. But do you know now, because you're getting it from the land registry, you believe this is the right thing, this is the legit or the legal thing that I'm getting. So when something like that happens, these people are known as bona fide purchasers for value. But the law is very strict. It's very strict for you to win such a case in the courts of law. You must really prove, like you must prove that you really had no knowledge of the fraud. Because first of all, now the law will look at whether and how does one get notified about fraud? There are three ways. Notices, there's actual notice, there is implied, and then there is constructive. Okay. Now, actually, basically, when one reads a buyer, in this case, you are aware that this land or the person who is selling to the land has no power to do so, or the land doesn't exist, but you go ahead and buy and buy the land because some people are there. Like they're parading themselves, they're looking for the richest person they can grab from land. So if an old woman is owning some land somewhere, they will come. I'm aware that it's for the old woman, but since I'm really interested and I have the intention of defeating the old woman, I have to go ahead and pay for the land. So that is the actual notice. You are aware that the land, if the person who is selling the land doesn't have the power. Secondly, constructive. My colleagues have been talking about due diligence.
The constructive notice is one whereby if you had gone to the ground and done the search, if you had gone to the registry and carried out the search, you would have found out that indeed there is something wrong about that land. So the law puts it on you. It's constructive notice. You are expected to go and carry out the search. You are expected to go to the ground. So if you're going to sit back and probably get a broker and the broker also fails to go and do the actual, visit or locus on the land or at the registry, you will not tell us in court, you will not tell court that, you know what, I didn't know. Then we have the implied. Implied basically, of course we are dealing with lawyers. that the ones that are aware that they will conduct the visit, they do the check at the registry, and they are aware that there is something wrong, you know, about this land. Maybe the one who is selling doesn't have the powers, but then they go ahead because because the system, we know how the system is, but the lawyer fails to inform you, the buyer, the actual buyer, that you know what, my client, there is something wrong about this property. We cannot purchase it. So that is implied. If your lawyer knows, then you should know. You cannot claim that it's only my lawyer who knew. For me, I didn't know. No, it's imputed on you. When your lawyer knows, then you know. So it's very, very strict for you to win such a case. You have to prove that you had no actual notice, you had no constructive notice, you had no implied notice for you to win such a case in the courts of law. So if you read that buyer, that you're out there and this is something that happened, it's very possible for you to go to courts, file the case in court. You can get a lawyer to help you with this process. But also, it can be a civil case and a criminal case. Civil, of course, probably you're following it up in terms of fraud, like you want to get your land back or you want to get your money back. So, but also in criminal, if you've identified the person, the seller of the land, someone who is purporting to be the owner of the land, and you've identified them, you can report them to police so that they can be charged with an offense known as obtaining money by false pretense. So you can engage the police. You can also engage the civil. Of course, the police cases lead to criminal cases. So it can be, you can have a case going on in the criminal court and a case going on in the civil court. Yes, but basically, if something that has happened to you, you can either get back your money or you can get that land. By the way, if you're bona fide purchaser for value, it's very possible that you get a good title as long as you had no notice about the fraud. Thank you, Trudy. Back to you.
Hakim, if I may just bounce back to you a bit. You mentioned, I've had spouses mentioned, I've had the children, I think the clan leaders mentioned, but then I've not had the LCs, brokers. Are those very essential to the process or not?
A bit of it is that in Uganda, most land for sale is identified by brokers who link the intended buyers and the intended purchasers. In the process of registration, they aren't important. But in the process of making due diligence, they are important. Because brokers are the people who give you the first information. Let me say, a broker will say that it's Doreen who is selling the land. It's the broker who will lead you to Doreen. That is first information. And it is helpful in the process of making diligence. That is how important they are. I talked about LCs. Then the aspect of clan leaders come in customary land that is not titled. These are the people who will tell you the history of the land. That this land was owned by this family, it was owned by so and so. So they are very important when it comes to unregistered land. You cannot take them out of the equation when you're carrying out due diligence.
Hello, welcome to the Know Your Law series, where Barefoot Law answers frequently asked questions on the law. Do you have employment issues? Questions about family law, criminal law, land transactions? The answers are right here on the Know Your Law series.